It'll never work.
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 Whiz tutorial here quickly and just see what it's like to build an app in Android Studio and test it. It's not going to do anything particularly fancy. I started off Android Studio from the toolbar where I like to keep it. We're going to start a new Android project, and it's asked for a name. We'll call it My Application for now. It asks for a company domain. This is normally something like, cs3m.utexas.edu, sort of like a domain name. This ends up, the more components you have, the longer the directory structure it has within the project. So we're going to keep it kind of short. I'm just going to remind myself that I want to delete this later, so I'm just going to put it here for now. You would probably put this wherever you keep your homework assignments. Okay, we're building for phone and tablet. That's pretty much all we're going to do in this course. There's some other devices, and for API level, we're not going to bother about this too much right now, but we'll choose something that's sort of in the middle. That's not too far back, nor is it completely recent. All right, once you do that, you have a choice of default activities. And here, Android Studio is just going to populate your initial code with some boilerplate to do some of these things, like give you a little button and a back button, give you a login activity, give you a navigation drawer. And I actually find these to be pretty useful to just check out, have Android Studio create you the initial code, just take a look, run it, take a look at how it runs, take a look at how it works. There's not a lot of code here, but it's sort of interesting. But we're just going to do an empty activity. For this demo, our activity name is called main activity. What are activities? We'll talk about that in class. Layout name, we'll call it activity main. These are defaults. They're perfectly fine defaults. Everybody knows what they mean. So now it's creating my project. It's initializing. Gradle is the build system. It's actually doing a bunch of Java work behind the scenes right now. This takes some time. Starting the emulator takes some time. So I'm going to do that sort of as I work. So here we've got some tips. I don't really need those right now. Let's see. Sometimes, okay. So if it opens up and you're all blank, what you're interested in over here is project. That actually gives you this file navigator, and you're really interested in Java and Res. You're not really so interested in Gradle, which is the build system. So we're going to look in here. I don't know how that got open. Main activity, this is the code for our main activity. The other thing that we're sort of interested in over here, if you click on Gradle, it'll give us, I'm not so interested in Gradle. What I am interested in is layout. Okay, yeah, preview. Okay, so I'm sorry. So what have I done here? So I've opened up the different windows. Over here I have my main activity, which is my main code. That's in Java. Then I have my main layout file, which is in XML. That's a different language. It's just a data language. And here I have my little preview pane, which actually shows me, it renders this XML. So, if I type in some different code, am I spelling cruel correctly? It shows up in the preview. Okay, and just for grins, I'm going to turn this into a linear layout. You can see that it's sort of trying its best to keep up with what I'm doing. So we'll turn that into a linear layout, and we will add a button. There are other ways you can add a button, but I like dealing with the XML directly. you specify the height and width of the button. We're specifying wrap content, which basically says make the button as big as whatever it contains. We're going to add some text into our button. Says something like press me. Okay. And let's see, I think we can even do, you can see this is a completion menu, and you can go through and look at stuff in here. This is a particularly important one. I just hit the tab bar. This allows you to give a button an ID, which is a string identifier that you can talk about it then in the code. And we're going to call this our press button, because it's a button you're going to want to press. You know, another thing you can do in here, text size. Okay, see, you know, I don't have a lot of this stuff memorized, and you don't need to with this auto completion. It's pretty awesome. So text is specified in these scale independent pixels. So font is SP, everything else is DP, which is some other sort of pixel that's supposed to be independent of the screen resolution. Okay, so we just specified the text size up here. We have some text here. Okay, we'll talk about the toolbar, which is over here. And you'll see that this linear layout, which I think defaults to horizontal, lays out the text view and then the button, because the text view is here and the button is here. Okay, so far all we've done is we've added some data in this layout file, which specifies what our app looks like. And now we're going to go over here and we're actually going to write some code. Okay, remember, oh, actually, you know what, one other thing I want here is I want to give this an ID. We'll call this our text view. Best name, but it's fine. And I'm putting these things on their own line, just for the heck of it. Actually, that's not normally how people do it, but whatever, that's how I want to do it today. And we'll talk about some of this stuff in class, you know, what padding is, and if you know anything about web design, you already know what padding and margin is, but we'll talk about that. Okay, so let's go write some code. Over here in main activity, this is a public class and it extends app compat activity. Why app compat activity and not activity? It's a backwards compatibility thing. We're going to put a public, let's see, we'll put a public text view up here. We'll call it TV, and we'll see why. This is asking you, hey, did you mean this is an Android widget text view? And it is. I can't figure out right now how to get that thing to work, so we're just going to say import Android widget text view. Okay, and now it says, oh, I know what type this is. Okay, and this expanded all of our imports. Okay. All right, now onCreate is sort of like your main procedure. This is the first procedure that gets called in any app, and we'll talk about what this bundle means later on, and this, you know, sort of super, and even what this set content view is. But the set content view is sort of saying like, hey, make my app look like activity main. And activity main is suspiciously similar to this name, and in fact that's not a coincidence. What this is saying is basically take this XML and we often call it inflate it onto the screen. What does that mean? You know, turn this data into, you know, sort of a living interface, but we'll talk about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I want to talk about a button that I call but, and I want to do get view, get, oh, come on, oh, you're concerned about this. Yes, Android widget button. widget button. Yes. Okay. Now you are happy. Okay. Can I get my get view by ID? No. I'm going to say get view by ID, which is a way to get an interface object. Then I'm going to give it an ID, and there's this global variable called R, which is given to you by Android Studio, and then ID is within R. And look, if we do that, we see these things that we recognize. We can get our press button here, and we'll be happy. Did I spell this wrong or something? Okay, well, we'll figure that out in a minute. Find view by ID. So there we go. Which, you know, is going to be very embarrassing because we're going to call find view by ID about 1 billion times in this course. So the fact that I couldn't remember its name is quite unfortunate for me. Let's see. We still have we've set our on-click listener, and okay, so often this figures out what I want, but today it does not. I want to override on click, which I'm going to passive view, or the system is going to passive view. And yes. View. Oh, I know what you're saying. Is that? Okay. Okay. All right, so what have we done here? What we've done is we've said, hey, in this function, I want a button that I'm going to get from my layout. I want the press button, and I'm going to do something called set an on-click listener, which you might imagine listens for clicks. And I'm going to set the on-click listener to a new instance of a class that I'm just going to create right here in line. I'm going to create a new view.onClickListener, it's a static method, and I'm going to put the code right here in line. I could define it in a separate class and assign it, but I'm not going to. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, you know what, this text view, I want a, oh, actually I could say up here, this text view, we're going to do find view by ID or .id text view. So we're going to initialize it, and then in here we're going to say tv.setText, and pushed. Okay, I think that's it. So we'll save this, and we will try to run it. Now, I've defined a couple of emulators here. We'll talk about this a bit in class, but these are different emulated devices you can run on. We've defined the Nexus 7 at API level 23 to be sort of our golden emulator. So that's the one you go to if you don't know what else to do. I guess we transfer out of full screen mode, and we are running the emulator. So let's see if we can actually get both times. So the emulator takes a little while to boot up, even if you have hardware acceleration, but it's not too bad, and it's gotten better with the new versions. That's the default welcome for the phone, and it's going to start running. Oh, I had a, oh, that's, there we go. Sorry, put that in, there we go. Okay, so here I'm going to say, it's asking me, do you want to run this on this connected device? It's not an actual connected device, it's a simulated connected device, but it is a connected device. And I'm going to say sure, and then, I've got another, oh yeah, I forgot to cast this. So, I'm not perfect, that's why I have a compiler. Should get that made into a shirt. And this, obviously, you see the messages for your build, and down here you can kind of click these different things if you want to sort of take a look at them and see what they correspond to. They correspond to different kinds of messages. The emulator will boot. It will come up with your default entry screen. It will actually enter the phone, and that's a good sign. And then it will actually run your app. So sometimes it takes a little while. As you see, it took a little while in this case, but this definitely looks like it is trying to run my app. Oh, unfortunately, the application has crashed. And it has crashed because I go down. So we've gotten this terrible error. The terrible error, if you look down in here, over here, there's some internal stuff that got involved, but main activity.java line 11. What is going on here? Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm not allowed to do this. Can't initialize a member variable using a call. If it were a static, I could do that, but it's not a static, so it's a mistake. I'll go down here, and I'll say, you know what? So when I get called, first do this sort of set up the layout and make my app look like what activity main says it's supposed to look like. Then I'm going to initialize this text view by finding this ID, and I changed it to main text instead of text view, just because I was getting confused about, this is called the text view, and I named this text view. I actually think that would be fine, but let's just not do that. So I'm going to call this main text, and then back here in main activity, I say, hey, get my main text, put it in TV, then get in this local variable button, or this local variable but, get the button, the press button, set the onClick listener. What the onClick listener is going to do is whenever it sees a click, it's going to set the text view to I've been pushed. And that's it. So let's run this baby on our simulated Nexus 7. It doesn't pop up to the front, which is sort of a drag. But if it had, we would have seen the application actually launch. This is my application. It's what we started with. Goodbye, cruel world, and press me in big font. So dun 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 dun. We press. I've been pushed. I guess I should say I've been pressed. Okay, and we can go down here, press our soft button, and get rid of this application. We can go back to our home screen. We can actually look at our applications. I've got a bunch of my applications in here. Oh, got lucky. Goodbye, cruel world, press me. I've been pushed. All right, there it is again. So our Whirlwind G-Whiz Android app in under half an hour, we will stop here.